Alright, it is critical that you're able to graph lines and understand graphs of lines. Try the first exercise as a warm-up, so I want you to pause now and attempt it on your own. So 4 lines are graphed on the set of axes below. Write the number of line beside each of the correct equations. So the first thing you should be looking at is the y-intercept. So of the first one, you have a y-intercept here, 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 and here. So let's look at the one that has the largest y-intercept. That would be the positive 5. So line 1 is positive 5. The one that has, and it has a positive slope. Line 3 has a negative slope, but it looks like it goes through at the second biggest y-intercept. So line 3 is going to be the first equation. Line 2 would be negative 3, not negative 7, and it's a positive slope, which would make line 4 the equation negative 2x minus 7, which is true that it is going down. It's a negative slope and it's crossing at negative 7. Recall that if a line is written in the form y equals mx plus b, then it's relatively easy to graph, especially if m and b are reasonably easy to work with. So let's graph this first equation. First, let's look at the slope. The slope is the m, which is the number in front of x. So 3 over 2. It's positive, so you'll go up 3 over 2. And your y-intercept, since it's a minus 3, that means it's a negative 3. So we always start with the y-intercept. That is our starting point. Then from there, we do our slope. Up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2. And you want to do as many as you can to fill up the coordinate grid. So now let's write down 2 points that this line passes through and use them to calculate the average rate of change. So I'm going to use this point and this point. So my first point is 2, 0, and my second point is 4, 3. So change in y. From 0 to 3, it's positive 3 on a number line. Then change in x from 2 to 4 is 2 on a number line. So yes, our average rate of change is the same as the slope of the line. Sometimes linear equations are not written in a form that makes it easy to determine the slope and the y-intercept. So it's important to be able to rearrange these formulas in order to quickly identify these linear parameters. So let's look at the equation. 2y minus 6x equals 12. So it looks like, in number 1, it looks like you add 6 to both sides. So what this is the additive property. And then in the next one is just the commutative property. All they did is they moved the 12 plus 6x to make 6x plus 12. So this is the commutative property. Then the next one, it looks like it's multiplying by 1/2 on each side. So this is the multiplicative property. And then the last step was the distributive property, where they distributed that 1/2 to everything. So let's look at the slope and the y-intercept of this line. And y-intercept. The slope is always the number next to the x, and the y-intercept is always the number that's plus or minus. Since this is plus, it's a positive 6. So let's rearrange each of the following linear equations into y equals mx plus b and identify the slope and y-intercept. So what you're doing every single time is you want to isolate the y. You want y to be the only thing on the left-hand side of the equation. So for this first one, we're going to need to add 3x to both sides, so that now I have 3y equals So now we have 3y equals 3x plus 15. Remember that you want to get it into y equals mx plus b, so you want that 3x to come before the 15. Now to finish solving, we divide everything by 3, so y equals 1x plus 5. It's not typical that you write that 1 there, but since you're just now practicing how to isolate for y, I want you to put that 1 there so that you remember that your m, your slope, is 1, and your b, your y-intercept, is 5. Letter B. We're going to subtract 5x from each side. So now we have 2y equals negative 5x minus 8. Then we divide by 2. So y equals negative 5 over 2x minus 4. Please notice that I kept this as an improper fraction. If I was able to reduce that fraction, I would, which I can't reduce this one. So m is negative 5 over 2. Remember, since it's slope, it's your rise over run. You kind of want a fraction. And remember with your slope, if this is a minus, then it's a negative y-intercept. And if at any time you want to pause and try these out on your own, that's perfectly fine. Letter C, subtract 1x from each side. So negative 3y equals negative 1x plus 6. Please notice that because this is a minus 3y, that is the same thing as a negative 3y. Divide everything by negative 3, so y equals positive 1/3 x minus 2. So your slope is positive 1/3, and your y-intercept is negative 2. Last one, subtract 6x from each side. So negative 4y equals negative 6x minus 20. Divide everything by negative 4. Here's an example of what I was talking about up above. The negative 6 over negative 4, it's a double negative, so it becomes positive. But 6 over 4 can be reduced to 3 over 2. And a negative divided by negative is a positive 5. So m is 3 over 2, and b is 5.